Very weird game at Pride Park on Tuesday night as Charlton pick up a point that feels worse than it actually is. Let's chat about it. Good evening, everybody. Welcome in to the From the Valley Floyd podcast. My name is Callum Alston. I'll be your host this evening, as always. Hope we're all doing well. Everybody got back safely from Derby last night. To those that went, or you've recovered from sitting behind your sofa watching the game on Sky. Second half, especially, was a bit ropey at times. But this is the first time we're kind of doing one of those sort of split preview reviews live. Afternoon, Paul. How you doing? So we're going to sort of do a review / preview. Hi Stuart. Hi Sam. How you doing? Thank you all for joining me on a Wednesday evening, as always. Yeah, we're going to sort of do a review that probably will end up being the preview. I was going to have a Preston fan on. They had some issues getting back from Hull yesterday for some reason, so don't know what's going on there. But so it's just going to be me. But I wanted to kind of have a chat about the game last night, which was sort of one of the weirdest games that I've ever sort of left, because I sort of came out of it thinking, if somebody told me that was a good point, I go, yeah, I think it was, before I sort of got on the train yesterday afternoon. Sorry, tell me how you doing. Before I sort of got on the train, I would have gone, yeah, give me a point, I'll take a point now. It's not a place that that we normally do particularly well at Pride Park. I know we won last time Nathan was there, but I don't know. I think it'd been something we hadn't won in the last 9 trips there or something. So if you'd offered me the point, I probably would have taken it. And I don't think the performance was terrible. First half, I thought we were very good. Second half sort of slipped away. We can chat about that because I'm really interested to get some of your sort of perspectives on some of the decisions that Nathan made, especially. But then if somebody told me it was a bad point, I'd also go, yeah, probably, we should have got an extra 2 points, and it's kind of the story of our season. We've had, what's that, the third game now? Fourth game? What, Bristol, Leicester, Millwall, and then probably last night, you think we probably should have been getting all 3 and not just 1. So I was coming back on the train. I was sort of sat there and I was trying to sort of put my thoughts together, because anyone that sort of saw what I posted yesterday, I wasn't upset and I wasn't annoyed. I've got a couple of good points coming through here. So we've got from Stuart, ran out of steam second half, needs a little freshening up Saturday. We'll chat about that, I promise you. Tommy's saying, I did say 1-1, but the way we bossed the first half, we should have won. And I think that's probably where most of us are. And then Stuart again, we allowed Derby so much space in the second half, very unlike the second half versus Blackburn. That's also true. But for me, it took me until this afternoon, came back on the train for me to kind of put my thoughts together. I've never really left a game. I'm trying to think of one. Maybe that 0-0 we had at Shrewsbury a couple of years ago, where you kind of came out of it and it almost felt like the game didn't happen, which might be a really weird thing. But I was chatting to someone in the station, a couple of the guys that sometimes I see them back from away days, and they were saying kind of the same thing. It was sort of a bit of a strange feeling. It was like almost like a nothing game. It's a point gained. We haven't really moved in the table. I know people talk about that reminders of that game. The only thing I remember from that Shrewsbury game is that Isted wonder save where he injured himself. That might be the only wonder save he ever made as a Charlton keeper. It may have been the only save he made as a Charlton keeper, to be fair. But it was so weird. Like I don't really know how to explain it. I can sort of go through the and kind of go through what actually happened and some of the decisions that I think maybe Nathan got right, wrong, why he made the decisions he made, and we'll do that. But my overwhelming sort of feeling was one of, I'm not too bothered. Like, I'm happy with the point. I'm not happy with the point, but I can actually marry those two feelings together. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way. Maybe somebody in the comments is absolutely raging, but I didn't feel that at all. I'm just a little bit bemused how we got to a point where the goalkeeper never should have had to save for us. The keeper's basically saved a point. I know he went on to concede the goal, but we'll talk about the run Bobby Clark made for that goal actually, because it's something I want to talk about Charlie Callum in a minute. But the keeper never, and he made sort of a routine save at the end, right, where it's kind of hit him in the foot. But the keeper, he never should really been in position where we needed the keeper to just to sort of to make those sorts of saves. And then we go down the other end, and Harvey Nibbs slices a glorious opportunity to win it. And then right at the end, Kane Ramsey gets on a counter attack and decides to not really pass or shoot, and sort of blows this breakaway opportunity. And I'm sort of sat there and going, if we'd won it, I think it would have been a bit of a. I don't know if we would have deserved it. If we'd lost it, I would have thought that we didn't deserve to do that either. So, Nathan coming out and saying, look, actually, it's a good point. Any point at this level is a good point away from home. It's true. The old adage, right? Win your home games, don't lose away from home. But I think there are decisions that he made that are part of the reason that the game sort of, I think, changed. But I also think that, to be fair to John Eustace, he gets a lot of crap from Derby fans. I actually think he changed it by making a halftime sub as well. So let's kind of have a bit of a chat. The lineup was sort of as expected. Reece Burke came out, can't do Saturday, Tuesday. And so Ken Ramsey came in at centre back. I thought Kane actually struggled yesterday, if I'm honest with you. Gillespie came in for Josh Edwards basically, and Bell came out. Got a thing just from Sam here. I said to colleagues who are Charlton fans who were taking at the start of the game, as we all laughed at someone if we were told once Nathan was appointed, we'd get promoted. I think I agree with you, Sam, and we'll come to it because people are starting to. Didn't feel like 2 drop points, Paul. Irritated, but no more than that. For that's kind of where I am, Paul. Actually, that's sort of where I'm irritated, but I'm not annoyed, and I don't quite know. Like, I'm not. I am frustrated, but I'm not frustrated, right? Like, I actually think, and I said it. I may have said it on Sunday's pub, but I definitely said to talking to the lads on Saturday after the game was back. I went, all the pressure's off now this week, right? Just go and get 2 points. If you can get 2 points, a minimum out of Preston and Derby, great. If you can get 4, if you can win on Saturday, Bobby's your uncle. So, Sam saying after 8 games, you said 8, yeah, and we'll come to the table, I think, probably towards the end. And this is exactly where I was coming to, Stuart, and I'll come to your comment in a second because I'm actually about to go right there. So Gillespie comes in for Bell, not for Bell, for Edwards, and Bell goes out to the left wing back. That's expected. I didn't think he was going to change the front two. He didn't change the front two. I'm not surprised. Let's talk about Charlie Callum because I want to start actually with the positive. Firstly, that touch was absolutely sublime for the goal, as Stuart says here. I also completely agree with his point that he was anonymous other than that. And there was a moment in that first half where, and I've seen it on other places, and I don't necessarily disagree. I think it's really important. I want to talk about the tactics of it because I realized I talked about this actually on the Chronicles on Sunday, but I haven't talked about it on here as much, which is basically there's you see TC's on the left-hand side of the box. He plays a gorgeous cross over the top, and again, Callum's not crashing the box. And this is kind of the point that I've been making, which is I like Charlie Callum. I think ultimately you can actually get to a point that he's going to be a good championship striker. But not having that instinct at the moment, I think, is killing us. And I mean killing us in a very sort of loose way, obviously. I mean just killing us in front of goal. We're sat in 8th in the championship after 8 games. It's fine. But we need him to be crashing the box. He needs to be a 9 that's crashing because we're actually getting decent balls in. But then people are going to other players and, detractors, and, there are many of them. And I think in many ways their criticisms are actually fair. But I think Tyrese Campbell gets a lot of crap for not having an assist so far. He should have had 2 in the last 2 games, right? Because there's 2 balls across the box. Striker crashes it, bang, right? Goal. Charlie Campbell should have 2 goals. if you look at the run that Bobby Clark makes for the save that Kaminsky makes, a good save from Kaminsky, to be fair to him. He's big, he's out, he's quick, he gets both hands on it, right? It was a good reaction. But that run down that inside channel where he goes in between Burke and Ramsey, right? Which one they shouldn't really be letting happen in the first place. But that's the sort of run that I need Charlie to be making, right? Because it opened up the gap. All of a sudden, you saw Carl Morrison behind that. You had, must have been Ajimang, maybe he come off, sort of going the other way. And there was space, right, for Derby to sort of exploit. And that's what we're not doing with TC and Kelman on the pitch. And to be 100% fair to TC, that's not his role. That's what Charlie needs to be doing for me, right? And I think that tactically, I think it's really important for me to sort of say that Tyrese Campbell's doing a very specific tactical role, right? I'm not saying he should be starting every week. I understand that there are criticisms of his game, and I think a lot of those criticisms I say are totally fair. But what he's doing is he's trying to play almost as a half winger, right? Because Bell's not going to get forward. So, you know, as much, I know Bell does, you know what I mean, right? But he's sort of dropping to play that sort of half wing space. And that's where when you had Apter originally, you would put Apter kind of in the other half wing space and you would create, basically would become a 4-3-3 with the ball. We're a 5-back without the ball. We're a 4-back with it. The problem is that James Bree's not a winger. He's a right wing back. So you end up in a weird slot where it's a little disjointed. But Carey's kind of replaced that by sort of moving out to that wing. So you'll see Carey's quite often on that right-hand side. Right, and actually it works because Carey can hold the ball up, pass off to Bree was a lovely cross. Bella's a decent cross on him, so you've got Tyrese on the other side. Tyrese has put in, as I say, 2 great balls. And those are the sorts of moments, when I think about forwards, they're not always going to be involved in the game, right? But in those moments, if your teammate doesn't put their noggin on the ball or doesn't crash the box, you're just going to go, oh, some guy called Callum does a podcast and so I put a decent ball in and no one cares. And you're just going to kind of get that criticism. So I hope people understand why I understand why Nathan Jones is doing what he's doing. Even if, and we're going to come to this point about now, because I know everybody's kind of dropping the same sort of comment in. Charlie saying, pleased with the point. We have to get Kelman scoring. He's got it in him. Yeah, that's what I'm saying is that, and I think you can get him scoring. Right, but I think he's just at the moment, he's a little on his heels. He needs to kind of get used to where he needs to be in this system. Sam, I've noticed a few times that Kelman sort of gives up. If we choose someone else or play the ball backwards, I wouldn't say it's giving up. He's a striker, right? I know we like hardworking strikers. I think Miles does the same thing. It drives people mad because Miles' body language isn't sort of positive and all the time, right? I always say the two times people overanalyze your body language are at work and at football, right? So you've got Paul saying Bobby Clark's prime quality still raw though, head down. If you looked up a certain goal to come in, so yeah, it was. It was actually I think he thought he was at a different angle than he. Pardon me. I think he was at a different angle than he thought he was, and that's kind of caused him to take a shot that really should be going other side. And also, he needs to keep that down. If he keeps that on the floor in the corner, probably the keeper doesn't get down to it. But that sort of run is what I'm referencing, is what I want Kelman to make, is just make that run, right? Open the space up for the players around you. That's not to take away from the first touch on the goal, which is simply sublime. And it's not to take away from the fact that I think that the one thing I will give Charlie Kelman a lot of credit for is he's not got his head down. Right, I don't think his confidence is there, and I think you can see that. But he's not put his head down. He's actually gone, and you can see him keep his head up. He's still running, he's still chasing, he's still pressing, and that's really, really important. But if I'm his strike partner at the moment, I must be a little bit frustrated, and I don't think players really care what we say on here. We're just fans chatting, right? But if I was Tyrese, I'm going to be something again. But I am giving you the ball, right? I am playing that ball up. You saw after that cross, he kind of went... You know, he's like, I played the right ball. It's a good cross, right? And that's the second game in a row he's played the right ball and he's not been there. You think a Miles probably would be there. I know against QPR he wasn't. But I think it was, it's Tommy here just saying, just think that TC needs time to relieve with him in this system. I don't disagree with you. I say it all the time and I get it. It's not always the most popular thing. I think if you've got a Miles Leeburn type talent in the squad, you should be starting as much as humanly possible. With the injuries, I understand it's a bit of a risk. But this kind of gets to another point. And I'll come to yours, Sam, on Hernandez in a second, because I think that's something to chat about. Which is one of the things I've also talked about with Kelman is giving him time, right? And we have to. And I said it yesterday, kind of before the goal 10 minutes before I sort of posted. I was like, this isn't working. And for most of it, it wasn't. And then he had a moment. You kind of go, okay, great. You know, for a striker, that's what you need. Just have moments in games, right? But also, like, we talk about giving that time to Kelman to adjust, right? Given that time to, I'm trying to think of another example. Kelman's just a really good example, right? I think people sort of, Tante, give them time. Our academy kids don't get that. And I don't know if people have noticed that. People aren't saying give TC time. People aren't saying give Miles time. People aren't saying give, Kuroi time. They're sort of slated from the moment that it doesn't look right. And I think part of that is because you haven't you haven't paid for him, right? And I think there's a price tag sort of issue there. And also I think, and I've said this on here before, I think there's a horrible expectation gap caused by the fact that we've had, in the last 10 years, we've had 3 exceptional Premier League quality, and not just Premier League quality, sort of, top 75 players in the, top 50 players in their respective leagues at the top level of football, right? One's a Ballon d'Or candidate, for goodness sakes. I think there's a slight sort of, I think the pressure doesn't allow players to have time. And I think you can kind of hear what Nathan's saying when he talks about TC. He's like, you have to give it time to work. It's not going to be instant automatic. And just because 2 players have opposite, we talk about big man, small man, right? Just because you've got a big man and a small man, it doesn't mean it's going to work. So I think what he's trying to say is, tactically, this is how I'm setting it up. And you can disagree with him, by the way, and I think you'd be absolutely legitimate to do so. I'm not saying this is how I necessarily think, but I think what he's saying is just give it a little bit of time. We can change it as we go. Players will get minutes. Miles got 35 minutes against Derby. Yeah, I mean, Tanto, he came on late, and I know people talk about start him. Didn't really have much of an impact yesterday, last night. So I'm not sure that's kind of it's not like an automatic change. Actually, the change that bothered me was the Bree one, because I would have brought Burke on, but I would have taken Ramsey off. I know Ramsey made a good tackle second half, and I'm not trying to pile it on him. I think I posted today, I said you have to give, again, that's a player that needs a little bit of time to adjust. He hasn't quite adjusted perfectly to the Championship as of yet. He's misjudged a few balls. He looked good the first couple of weeks, but I think teams have kind of realised you can go not down the outside of him, but down the inside on his left foot. So, he's got to learn. He'll be fine. He's got all the credit in the world, Kane Ramsey. I'm not, bashing him at all. I think, Lord knows I'm a massive fan. But it's kind of what I'm saying is you have to give certain players more than 8 games to kind of be up to speed. And I think a lot of it's like, oh, we have to be there right now. I don't think we quite are. I'm going to take a couple of comments here. So we're going to talk about Hernandez in a minute, Sam. So saying TC just need to be left out for a couple of games to get more from the attack. I just don't know if we seem getting that much more, Tommy. I get it. We've looked more dangerous. It's a tricky one. I think it's a tricky one. My thing with it is I wouldn't drop TC without dropping Kelman first, and I wouldn't drop Kelman at the moment. So I think it's just with that system, Leeburn can't play off the wing. We saw that yesterday when he came on. He was trying to play that half wing space. He's not quick enough at this level to do that. Can Tanto? Maybe, but it's a new position for him. Port Davenport, defenders can't afford to leave TCB is far more than ball carrying nuisance. But he does. I mean, he can cut in and take a shot. He's actually not got a terrible shot on him. But you can't leave him because he's kind of our pace outlet. Quite often he takes 2 defenders as well. They'll put 2 on him to try and stop that. And that's where I need Callum to exploit the gap. And I'm just not seeing that for me, which isn't to say that I don't like Charlie Callum and it's going to work. I think it's just a time thing. So we've got Tommy saying TC can come back once we're not chasing a game to get his goal. Oh, you're talking about Kelman, sorry, Tommy. Come back to me in a second. I've got Sam saying, I feel the reason Nathan isn't changing our attacking options as Mal and Tante seem to click quicker than I expected. I don't know. I mean, they have, but they did for a half, right? I don't think they would, I actually just think we look a little bit more dangerous going forward when Miles is on the pitch. But again, I don't know the injury history. I don't know what he will say. Yeah, Tommy's saying, okay, he meant Tillman, not TC. I don't necessarily disagree, but I also understand the value that if Kelman gets one goal, it's going to feel like he's going to get 3 or 4. I think he looks like that sort of a player. And you have to, again, give him time, right? That forward line, I think, is going to be a bit of an on-running sort of saga. But as long as the back 6 do their job, back 7 if you include Coventry, I guess, it shouldn't be too much of an issue in terms of most games that we play, because defensively we're good enough that I think we'll be okay. Yeah, he's saying I think sometimes taking plays out is not as a bad thing. No, I don't think so. I mean, certain players can kind of crush their confidence, so it sort of depends. But a really good example of this, I remember when Nathan Jones came in, that first game against Reading, he took Coventry completely out of the squad. Everyone was like, what on earth's going on here? Right, he brought him back in, and it was excellent for him for the rest of that season. So sometimes you just need to take a play kind of out of the firing line a little bit. Should we be playing time to around 60 minutes, not 80? Don't necessarily disagree. I was surprised that just Callum came off. I think he was trying the TC Lieben thing up front together, if I'm honest with you. I think he wanted the breakaway pace at 1-0 up, so that if we could break, we'd have that pace. But then Tanto has that pace as well, so I'm not sure if that necessarily, right? It'd be interesting actually to see a sprint up and down the pitch between TC and Tanto to see who's quicker, actually, because they both are rapid. The dam will burst once CK scores the first one. Yeah, that's kind of my point. I think he just needs one to kind of get going. I know the one thing we haven't talked about in this pod is the midfield. Really need to. I think they were good. I actually saw something, and I can't remember if I put this in one of the preseason pods or not. My only worry with the midfield was when you come up against just 2 large, big physical blokes, can they deal with that? And I don't think that, and I was going to say that I think Eustace, as much nonsense as he gets from Derby fans, is not quite often, I think, deserved, because that first half, they were pretty poor. He brought, is it Uzo on, who's actually make it worse on loan from Crystal Palace? But he's, I think, sort of changed the game when he came on at half time. You just had 2 big, large blokes, and that sort of stopped us from having Doherty step up, because physically he couldn't match. I think that's why Nathan made the change with Kerry. I don't think it was to rest him. I think he went, I need to get a bigger lad kind of on. I don't think Nibs is that much bigger, but I think Nibs is a little bit more physical in the tackle. But, you lose, I think, some of the pressing ability that Kerry has, because Kerry is very athletic, very agile. He has that ability to kind of do that role, I think really very well. So I think that when we play against sides with those really big midfielders, why that trip to Portman Road in October, other than the PTSD from it being 10-0 in aggregate on our last 2 trips, that worries me when they've got those sort of bigger midfielders. I actually think we'll be better against sides like Southampton with the smaller, sort of more technical players. Sam was saying after the Blackburn game, Nathan said Kane wasn't happy. I didn't see the game. Did he take his opportunity? Would you bring back Burke? Burke comes in Saturday. Sam, I thought Kane really struggled. I thought Kane really struggled at times in that game. First half, especially, there's a couple of balls that are simple long balls, and he just looked lost. As I said earlier, you've got to, we're going to give him time. I'm not gonna jump down sort of Kane Ramsey's throat. I think he's a very, very good player, and I think he's got all the skills to be at this level. But I think that Sam may have gotten and I think maybe he did himself a little bit, got slightly overconfident after the first couple of weeks, and I think the last couple have really shown him that it's going to be hard at this level. I remember actually, funnily enough, ironically, it's only really Tanto, and then it must have been was it Bloxham at Blackpool as well? The only 2 I seem to remember that gave Kane an absolutely torrid time. I think he's realizing at this level they're all kind of that, that sort of player. In fact, a lot of them are better, and that's if I look at Ramsey against Village, and again for that Ipswich game, I go, that's going to be really, really tricky for him. So, you need to give him time. You just, players need to adjust. We're 8 games in. And this was what I was going to sort of move on to before we sort of chat the trip to Deepdale. Is before 10 games, people, please, 15 even, please stop looking at the table. I think there is a slight expectation gap that is building. I think a lot of people are going to be quite unhappy if the expectation gap isn't sort of squished a little bit. I would still be absolutely delighted with 20th. I don't think that's what Nathan Jones is going for. I think Nathan Jones maybe has his eye on the 12th place trophy, as it is so affectionately known in the Championship, which is also known as the Preston / Bristol City Cup, which is the battle to finish right in mid-table. But I think that when we look at it, I think that you have to realise, and I hate to do this because I don't want to sort of almost like a mansplain to an almost entirely male audience, but you know what I mean. The math just makes it so that every time someone wins and every time someone loses at this point, the table's going to flummox, right? What happened yesterday is almost everybody drew, so that it didn't really move. But today, for example, I think Millwall, I think there's 3 teams below. So it's Millwall, is it? I can't remember the other 2 are now when I looked it up earlier. But, if I just pull up the Championship table, actually, I do have a computer. I can look this up. No, I do not want the Champions League. We're not there yet. There we go. So, QPR, West Brom, and Millwall can all go above us, and we drop down to 12th tonight. If all 3 of those sides win, we drop down to 12th. So, so come on, Callum, undo the shackle, lose the shackles all aboard the HMS PTL. I think that may be slightly getting ahead of ourselves, if I'm honest with you, Paul, just slightly. I would be absolutely delighted if we were challenging for things. I just think that I'd be very happy if we did what Portsmouth did last year and the season was over in April, right? Like, I just think that if you look at the table now, anytime someone wins, anytime someone loses, that math is just going to, there's a reason why Lou Mendes, when he does his chart, says after 10 games, right? I think we just need to be a little bit careful on the looking at the table. Because Samson, come on, Super Frank, please beat Millwall. Yeah, we'll see. Nah, Millwall. But I think we just need to be, and also the expectation is that we avoid relegation. That is the only expectation I'm pretty sure the owners have given Nathan Jones. He'll go in his head, I'm going to battle for the playoffs and all the rest of it. And he's done it with Luton with a far smaller budget. But I think we just need to be really careful that we don't sort of over-egg it. I don't think a manager that was gunning for promotion would have gone, there's a good point yesterday. I think he realises what the job is and probably knows how to do it better than I do. But, maybe you get to January, see where you are, see what's happening. But I just think we need to be slightly careful before people get very, very upset. If we got very used to winning in the last sort of 8 months, 9 months. That's not going to happen every week. More than likely, still, we're going to lose more games than we win and draw put together, right? I think we just need to be a little bit careful that we don't overstate it. And actually, the bottom isn't as bad. Sheffield Wednesday, for example, are nowhere near as bad as I thought they were going to be, right? I don't think Oxford are quite as bad as I thought they were going to be. I don't think they're good. And I don't think either of them are going to stay up. But they're not, they're not dreadful sides that you're just going to... they're not dreadful as you're just going to sweep aside, right? And that's kind of where I would just tell people to heed a little bit of caution before you sort of end up in a place where you're getting upset that we're not finishing 4th and hosting a second leg of the playoff game at home come May time, or that we're not at Wembley again. So just as I just thought I would sort of on this podcast, I tried to be a little bit, try to set the temperature down just a little bit from that. Okay, trip to Deep Down. For anybody that's joining me, it's another trip. Literally come back on a Wednesday, work on Thursday, and then Friday afternoon up to Preston, and then off to Portsmouth. I chatted to him on Saturday, so I know that secretly he agrees with me. Sounds like I said at the start of the season, we as fans just need to enjoy every game, especially last time in the division we missed out due to COVID. Exactly, right? Enjoy it. There's going to be ups and downs. But I was talking to someone who was very, very critical of Nathan Jones last year, and he went, look, to end up at a point where we've gone away from home and we have played we've played as well as the team that we're playing who are in the Championship, and I don't think Derby are going to go down, right? That shows you how far we've come, right? And I think that just think of, you have to sort of mark we are progressing, we are moving forward. It's just slightly less glitz and glam. I say that before we unfortunately look like we may be doing a god awful light show before West Brom. But you know what I mean, right? You've just got to sort of mark the progress, enjoy the ride. There's going to be some ups, going to be some downs, but I think we just need to, stay. It's nice to see Nathan giving his all blow kiss at the end again. Appreciating the support. I thought supporters were absolutely fantastic last night, and I don't often mention the away support. I thought considering that's a Tuesday night. Tommy's saying a point there would be good, and I think he's meaning deep down. Yeah, he's saying Preston. I meant, yeah. Again, you come out of these 4 games, between the breaks, and you've got what would that be? Is that 9 points from 4? You've got to be happy with that. It's going to be difficult to get to Preston. Thierry Small's going to want to prove a point. He was out in the media. Was it on the weekend? And it's nice to have a manager that wants me, which I think sort of backs up the idea that we did not offer him the contract that he wanted. We did not think he was worth the money he was asking for that number of years. I think Sam's meaning Phil with this squad, he can't see us going down, but he's put can see us going. I think, and that may be a typo, Sam. You might but no, I mean, I just don't think with this manager, I see us going down either. He did score last night, Thierry Small, yeah. And we know what we're like with former Charlton players coming back to haunt us. But it's going to be, it's difficult. Heckingbottom sides are really physical. It's probably going to be, yeah, Sam saying yes. That's what you meant. You meant the can't see it going down. Yeah, it's going to be physical. It's going to be unpleasant. It's not a nice place to go necessarily, sort of Lancashire in October. I like Lancashire. It's a great place. But it's going to be, it's going to be nippy. It's going to be, just one of those sort of slightly tricky games that you've just got to almost kind of will your way through, if that makes any sense. And it's also, we can't let our heads drop from what was a poor second half. My one thing, and I'm sure, I can't remember which one of you said it. Paul Danbos, Small had his pants pulled down. I haven't seen that, actually. I'll go watch the highlights later. You might be right. Defensively was not his strong suit. If we lose, it's not the end. Well, no, of course not. Again, if you'd offered me 8 points from 4 games, I would have taken it. So I'm not too bad. Charlie saying I still believe in Charlie coming, as do I. That's why the comments I made were hopefully constructive and not just pure criticism. Sam, we turn Lloyd to kick Small down the park. I mean, have you seen the thing where Lloyd's got the most fouls in the division? I did see that coming into Tuesday night, which I thought was quite funny. He has to be careful not to get himself sent off, actually. But it's just going to be one of those games that you're just going to have to will your way through it, go into it feeling confident, not overly confident. But my one worry from Tuesday, I thought by the end of that second half, we looked knackered. And that was, I think there were certain players that looked very tired. And I know why he brought Reece Burke on, but Reece Burke looked knackered and he paid half an hour, right? And I think it's just, again, it's Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday. I just don't think that physically he's quite there yet. I thought the reason James Breed came off probably because he's played so much football and missed a couple of weeks before that. He didn't have a pre-season. So I think we do need to be a little bit careful. I would like to see Rob Apter, I think, tomorrow, because, again, I think that he Jerry Small came off against Blackpool when we were at home, didn't he? Before half-time, because he was getting absolutely ripped to shreds. I remember that being a moment you thought, oh, is this guy going to stay? But he had to take him off because Apter was just absolutely giving him an awful time down that wing. So I would be very interested to see if I can get Apter into the game on Saturday. But again, that means dropping the guy that scored a goal, right? And that becomes a difficult sort of conversation. Suspensions will make a difference. Yeah, they will do, Tommy. Yeah, there'll be suspensions. There'll be yellow cards. I remember for, what was it, about 2 months last year, watching Connor commentary, 1 yellow from a suspension. We didn't have anyone else to play behind him. It would have been a 3-game suspension. And this was when the playoffs were neck and neck. And he sort of went 3 months without getting booked. And then as soon as the ban ended, the first game back, got himself another yellow. That's Premier League Academy right there. He's saying, if I was Nathan, I'd move back to left back and Bell back with Lloyd. No, I mean, I don't think it was that bad. It was actually the other side where the chances came from, Sam. I don't think it was Macca's best game, but I don't think really any chances came because of him. He actually flicks the header away. It's Lloyd that loses the header on their goal. I haven't talked about their goal, Derby's goal on Tuesday, by the way, only because it's not a goal that we can see very often. Doc has to be getting out there quicker. Yes, you can't give but Travis has been really smart. He's actually just peeled off. He's waited and then gone when the ball's flicked out. You look at it and you go, it's a beautiful cross. Keeper can't come there. Lloyd's got 2 men on him. He can't win that header. Goal, right? Happens. Yeah. Tommy's saying I would have Apton put Bree instead of Ramsey. You could. I mean, again, I said this on the Chronicles on Sunday. The real issue about Bree is you lose the free kicks because Connor Coventry can't take a set piece. Right? Even yesterday, I think he took one that went right to the keeper. I think he took a corner that went right to the keeper. So that's a big loss as well. But yeah, I mean, I think that what we've got to sort of prepare for on Saturday, it really is a game of attrition. It's a proper sort of 3:00 Northern kickoff. It's going to be, probably grey and overcast and all the rest of it. Deepdale's not a particularly happy hunting ground for us historically either. So, but the formations sort of work. Hackingbottom plays are sort of similar. It's not a million miles from what Nathan does. I think it is a 3 at the back. Everson's a cracking keeper as well. Don't know if anyone saw that save made against Bristol City. Goodness gracious me. Last minute. As good as a goal, that. Absolutely ridiculous stop. So, I think that all I would say is that I think that if you take one thing from my analysis today, and it's just my opinion, as I say, I think different people are giving different opinions as we've gone on, and I'm not right all the time. I'm often wrong. I think I would go time, right, for everyone, right? Give everyone time to adjust because we're not all there yet, right? The manager, in many ways, is kind of coaching over, I think, some of the issues. Some players are taking to it like a duck to water, your Coventries of the world, your Dohertys of the world, although he was poor in the first game, to be fair, but it just needed some time, right? Kerry looks really good. And others, I think, are just going to take a little bit more time. And as Charlie said, Charlie Jarrett, believe in the players we have and sort of make it so that, I think sometimes some of the reactions can be a little bit over the top. I did. Did I bring this up? I'm going to bring it up. Why not? I did see someone that even after that yesterday, there was a weird cross that came in that Kaminsky punched instead of catching. And he should have caught it. I'm not going to disagree with it. But I think it's become a thing that, and I probably didn't help at times myself with it sometimes, I think. But goalkeepers aren't superhumans and they're not perfect. Right? We brought Kaminsky in, we gave him the number 1 shirt, and he's our highest paid player. He's going to play every week that's not a cup game, right? We owe him $2.5 million over 2 years. He's just going to play, right? But we brought him in knowing the guy can't kick, right? We know he can't kick. So he kicked a couple of goal kicks or a couple of, maybe one from an offside, a free kick from an offside. He kicked it out. And you just heard this, oh, God, he can't kick. It's like, he's not here to do that. Right? And I get it. You look at it and you go, yeah, you've been paid 20 grand a week. You should be able to kick a football. I understand. But we're professional footballers that can't put a corner in that beats the first man. And your mate on Sunday, and mate in Sunday League was out the pub last night, is able to constantly knock it onto the head of someone in the 6-yard box. Yeah, Tommy's saying sometimes keepers punch, not catch these days. I think it's because what you're told, and actually, Kaminsky's in his 30s, so he's not really a modern keeper. I think he's actually one of the few remaining sort of old school shot stoppers. But you're basically, if you're not 100% sure you can catch it, punch it, because you actually get more distance on a punch if you can sort of almost wind up. But I think he was worried there was going to be a flick on. I think he was worried the direction of the ball was going to change. So that's why he's punched it. And then in the end, the derby player doesn't get his head on it, so he's punched it. And it came back across the box. It didn't lead to anything. But we didn't buy him to sort of dominate his box. We didn't buy him to make loads of assists and kick the ball into people's foot, although he's done it now 2 of the last 3 games, which is quite funny. But I do think that we just need a little bit, again, expectations and time are the 2 things from this pod. Expectations and time. Keep your expectations lower than we're going to make the playoffs, and give players time to adjust and give players time to get to know people. Because at the moment, you've got a goalkeeper playing behind a back 5 who James Bree only walked in the door a month ago, right? Like, I think we just need to sort of slightly calm it on the Every little thing is a criticism. I think what we sometimes get into, and I think every fan base does, by the way. I'm not criticizing us specifically. I think it's just a football fan thing, right? We're all, we have like a herd mentality. We're all kind of, we all just want the club to do well, I think, at the end of the day. And we just have a different perspective on how we're going to get there. And I'm sure there'll be people that are listening that completely disagree with me on the things that I've diagnosed, and that's absolutely fine. Right. But what I would say is have that conversation. I think it's important that, we all stick together, that we all kind of, realize the roller coaster is going to go down and the roller coaster is going to go up. And hopefully at the end of it, we end up in the safe middle. Would make me very, very happy. There we go. So we've got Sam saying, feel the same when it's a throwing, unless you're in the box, but I cannot everybody throws their own team. I talk about throws. Yeah, it's the same idea, right? Like it's difficult because the game is going so quick. Yeah, no, I mean, Paul, I don't think you're wrong. European keepers don't mind a punch, but often two-fisted and authoritative. Tommy K lacks the authority outside of the shot stopping. Yeah, I mean, again, it's not why you bought him, right? You bought him in as a pure shot stopper. Right? He reminds me actually of, and he's not the same keeper. I'm about to name one of the best to do it, right? In this sort of vein, but he reminds me a lot of like a David De Gea type, right? He doesn't kick and he doesn't command, but the reflexes, almost sort of bail him out. And the thing that people need to realize is that his reflexes have been bailing him out for 15 years, right? 20 years, however long he's been playing football, 12, 13 as a kid in Belgium, right? He won't have ever really been this authoritative type. So I think people need to know that it might look a little weird to us, but to him, that's comfortable. And so I think it's just, there's nothing you can do on the goal. He's tried to save 3 points, and in the end, he saved 1. I thought the really important one was the one that actually at the end of the game we shot and he hit him on the foot, and he kept it out because that was the sort of goal he let in against QPR. So, my one thing I don't want to do is relitigate the goalkeeping every other pod, which it feels like I have to do sometimes. I'm a former keeper. Sam was in the comments as a former keeper. I love goalkeepers. I know other places don't talk about them that much unless they're criticizing them. I can understand why a keeper makes the decision they make. I still think he should have caught that particular cross. But a couple of kicks going out of bounds and a goalkeeper punching something they could have caught, really, we're talking, there are people talking about, I don't know if he's good enough. Really? I mean, Zetterstrom who's Derby's keeper, is actually a really good distributor, kicked the ball out twice. Like, sometimes to play a ball diagonally like that, it's gonna bounce, or it's gonna spin, or it's gonna skid, or they've just watered it and it's turning the wrong way, or whatever it is, and it's hard to judge. So I just think, again, time, patience, expectation, and I think we're going to be just fine. Right, I'm gonna let you all go because I know Paul needs to prep for the Chronicles. Yeah, so Tommy's saying all players need their time to be managed this early on in the season. Yes, except for the goalkeepers. Do not change the goalkeepers, dear to God. If you want to talk about confidence going out the window. But I'm going to let Paul get to the Chronicles. If you're around in Preston, want to come say hello, I'll be there as always. But yeah, to those of you traveling, safe travels. Those of you staying at home, listening on the radio or whatever it is, all the best to that. I don't know if Sam's on Charlton Live this week or not, but all the best to him. And thank you all so much for being in the comments. All right. Sorry, I had to say it. Before someone clips it and says that I've said that you need to change everybody. I won't be there. I'm not a true fan. I'm sorry, but I had to do it. I saw your post and I had to do it. I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I'll see you up in Preston, Sam. Thanks, Tommy. I appreciate it. Remember, if you're here, I'm gonna sound like such a YouTuber. I hate this, and I have refused to do it before. But please make sure you subscribe. It helps me out a little bit. If you can great. It means that maybe someone will see it. I don't know. But anyway, thanks all for coming on. Thanks for joining me on a Wednesday night. And I will see some of you on Saturday. And if not, I'll see you on the review on Sunday afternoon. All the best. Thank you.